All right, so we just finished some testing with Mari. First things first is she does give a lot of buff compared to Rosanna. So the main takeaway is like her damage is about 30% more damage if you have peers, so like Red Hood, Alice, for example, compared to Rosanna. And then if you don't have peers compared to Rosanna, without counting the units that are giving sustained damage, it was like about 8 to 20%. Mari can be better than Crown if the unit is full pierce, but it can vary from like 1 to 8%. So she's just slightly better than Crown on the Pierce unit. The takeaway there is like Red Hood. For example, Alice kind of did like just 1% here, 1% more damage. Red Hood did 7% more damage. Another thing though is Mari still loses total damage just in general because most of the time you're setting up your team with like a bunch of other DPS. So for example, maybe you had like Ludmilla, maybe Maxwell as a buffer, or you have other DPS going alongside with it. And another thing is because also Crown personally does more damage, would do more damage than Mari. But like for example, a unit that is full Pierce or like a lot of Pierce situation, you have Dorothy here. Dorothy was dealing more damage with Mari because of that Pierce. And then Asuka, another thing is she was doing 10% more damage, 10%, 30% more damage with Mari in it. And part of it's probably because my generation is not as full, so there were some times where Asuka was not getting as much Pierce. So there were some times where Asuka doesn't have that Pierce bonus. Another thing is Mari and Helm combination is actually better than Blank and Noir. Similar to how Summer Rosanna was also, Summer Rosanna and Helm was kind of like a side grade. Mari and Helm ends up being actually a much better buffer because of that. Because, well, when you have Pierce in there, then that would definitely benefit more. If it's not Pierce, it's roughly even. There was like, it's actually equal actually, or actually I kind of lost damage here, but part of it is just because my Mari was a little less invested, so the attack buff that you're getting from her is not as big compared to Noir. She would be an upgrade to any Pierce units. That's like if there's a main takeaway on it, anytime there's like a Pierce unit, they would get like a main upgrade. Now there's one thing that I would say that's probably an exception, and that is Asuka. Asuka still loves Crown compared to Mari because of the reload speed. Asuka benefits a lot on the reload speed on Crown, so, and especially with Asuka's low ammo capacity, she's reloading a lot often, so you're losing a lot of damage. So in these situations, for example, with Crown versus Mari, when I had Asuka, I lost like 20% damage, right? And that was because of the reload speed benefit that's just very strong with Crown and Asuka together. But if we're just comparing Rosanna and Mari, which is Summer Rosanna is it's a unit that we have been using for Team 4 and Team 5. So Team 4 and Team 5, like last solo raid, we ended up like using Summer Rosanna as the Team 5, right? There's this one, and there's another Rosanna here with Red Hood, as you can see here. So it is actually, we can see like the use of Mari in that situation. Mari is better than Crown if it's Pierce. She is better than Rosanna just in general. And for a lot of like units, not counting the sustained damage. And if we can build the pure Pierce team, Mari will be great for now. Team 1 is pretty much with Crown, Team 2 is like Tia Naga, and then Team 3 that's like pretty much standard there is the bunnies, right, with the shotgun or flex. And Team 4 and Team 5 has always been just kind of that unit that just floats around. It's kind of hard to just like justify to put Mari up top as like team 2, team 3, even, or team 1, even though like say she's doing more than Crown. One thing to keep in mind is Crown has defensive skill that can keep the team alive. Meanwhile, like Mari and Rosanna both don't have anything defensive, and that's also why Tianaga and Bunnies are very solid, because they have defensive capabilities alongside with their buffs. So right now, the way I would kind of see it in terms of solo rating is that we would end up going to be using Mari with probably like Red Hood primarily, but like you could flex it with Asuka, with Maxwell, with Alice if you don't have Scarlet Black Shadow, with Snow White, with LaPlus, those units that have Pierce in them. So here's the kind of numbers that I have. So Crown versus Mari. And this is when you're using Mari. As you can see in the colors here, the orange ones are basically units that have Pierce in them that I kind of mark, and so you will see how they have benefited from using Mari. And then this is like the comparison if you're using Crown versus Mari, or like Crown Naga versus Mari Maxwell. And Crown Naga is still like a really strong combination, partly because Naga just has that insane core damage bonus. And yeah, so the Crown Naga combination, if you're gonna go with core damage, is just still insane. And you're not gonna be able to do Mari plus Naga. There's just not a lot of synergy on it. Like, you're not providing any shield to Naga, that's why. So I decided to try to use Maxwell as a side, but yeah, you're just losing a lot of damage because of it. Now the question of like upgrades and duplicates, is it worth or not? The main thing is the burst is definitely the highest priority. It just universally increases upgrades throughout. And then, since the main reason why you would want to use her is with Pierce units, then you do want the skill 1 because it buffs Pierce. And then the skill 2 for the attack percentage is actually not so bad. We do get like a relatively good amount of like damage increase from it, like 3% to 10%. Overall, I would say putting an even priority to all of them would be roughly ideal. If anything, since the ideal way to use her is to use her with Pierce units, then I would put a higher priority on skill 1 over skill 2 since you have to decide between using your skill 1 or skill 2 books. But overall, at the end of the day, you do want to eventually 10-10-10 them, so you would go 7-7-7 and then go to 10-10-10. And then the other question is duplicates is worth. In terms of buff that she was providing from Zero Limit Break to MLB, I was getting like 1% more damage. So take that as how you will. For a lot of people's sanity, probably the best bet is to just like upgrade the overload for the base attack. Because, I mean, there's a lot more other DPS that's probably worth investing more with your overloads rather than investing on a support. I could see a top tier min-maxer to overload her for sure, but I would prioritize definitely the main DPS. Overall, the way I see it is getting at least like 1 copy seems to be a pretty worth investment, just in terms of if you ever want to entertain building like different types of teams, because like we could totally have like a Pierce team. I wouldn't say she's an extremely high priority. The biggest but, if anything really, is just that we don't really have like a defensive unit, and if there is ever a need for defensive, then that would be the main downside on it. So it's hard to justify her putting into like team 1 or team 2 or team 3, just because those positions are just like built with the duos and then Crown also. And the way I see it is, even though like she would be in a team that could totally deal more damage if you have like a lot of Pierce units on compared to Crown, I think the inflexibility of her is putting her down a little bit. And there's one final thing that I kind of want to just let people know, or just like food for thought. Right now, Indivilia, which is Fire Week, and Harvester on Anomaly Interception are the only bosses right now that doesn't have a full clear at stage 9. Even with like all the highest like DPS investments right now. I have a feeling that either the fire DPS, for example, water DPS, we're definitely gonna have some sort of water DPS, but in terms of fire, there's either gonna be a really strong fire or a really strong support. Maybe something that would also like scale with the defense, because part of the reason why Indivilia is like super strong is because she has really strong defense. So that's part of the reason why what makes Indivilia kind of difficult. So I'm not sure if it's gonna be a support that would be catered towards this particular boss, like a defense down or something like that, or just another fire strong DPS. The way I see it is be on the lookout for either like a really strong DPS that's upcoming, or a really strong buffer slash debuffer that's upcoming also. And I have a feeling that if it's a strong buffer or debuffer, that's a unit that would end up replacing Team 4 or Team 5. So in terms of building, the way I really see this is it's just more of a flex team building, but there is also just a possibility of getting power crept eventually, just possibly because she doesn't have that much of a flexibility. But I could see whales taking advantage of it later in the future once we get more Pierce DPS units, and they can take advantage of using no healer teams. So like a pure Pierce team with like no healer, I could totally see like Mari being used there. So your pull priority before with Mari, Asuka, Rei is still the same? Or is Mari and Asuka switched now? Again, I could see this situation: Asuka is greater than Mari is greater than Rei, or Asuka is equal to Mari is greater than Rei. And another thing that I guess like we could talk about is Asuka and Mari does have synergy together, especially they're both peers, and Rei doesn't really have synergy with Mari as much. So if there's anything, like if you need to take two, then I would Asuka Mari and Asuka Rei probably is roughly similar. You would kind of use them differently. You would use Asuka and Mari together in a Pierce team, but you can also use Asuka and Rei in a Fire team. So the main common denominator here, if you have to just really choose which one, is Asuka. But yeah, that's my thoughts right now with Mari and testing. If I do find more things, we'll just let people know on the stream, or if I think that it's worthy to have another video about it, we'll make another video. Don't forget to leave that like, comment, and subscribe for that YouTube algorithm, and I'll see you guys next time.